Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast, episode 77.
Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast with your host, Jack Mountain Bushcraft School founder and Master Main Guide, Tim Smith.
I'm your host, Tim Smith. I'm a registered Master Main Guide, and in 1999 I founded the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School. We help people become more skilled, more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more confident outdoors by using traditional skills, a few simple tools, and field-based experience. Whether you're looking to go from city slicker to competent outdoor professional, want to experience a remote expedition, or just want to learn a few new outdoor skills, we've got you covered. You can check out the show notes to this and all of our podcasts at blog.jackmtn.com. When you're there, click on the podcast button. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Lastly, the best way to keep up with our programs and trips is to join our email newsletter, and you can do that at jmbnews.com. It is Thursday, August 29th. I am joined in the Guide Shack by a plethora of people. We just sat through an overnight inch of rain and having a slow start to the morning. We were talking about business and audio and podcasting, and we said, hey, let's just go record one, and then you'll see how it all actually works. So we've got a bunch of folks here who are on the fall 2019 Wilderness Bushcraft Semester. We've got a full thermos of coffee, a half thermos of tea and tang. There's a dog running around on the floor, and everybody is currently clothed. Is that accurate?
No, not at all.
Almost. The dog's not clothed.
Exactly.
The dog is not clothed.
She's wearing a collar.
I'm mostly clothed.
Mostly
Thanks.
clothed.
Thanks, John.
Clothed and comfortable. It's our new reality show where we sit around and drink coffee wearing clothes.
Hats count, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just going to kind of chat today about people's first impressions with kind of living the woods life, and if they could go back in time and tell themselves something about this experience, about the reality of being here and doing it, what would that be, if anything? And we also want to check in with kind of the fantasy versus the reality of outdoor living, right? With the idea that, you know, if I'm stuck in a city somewhere, if I'm on a bus, if I'm on a plane, my mind will wander to where, I wish I was in the middle of nowhere. But whenever I have those sort of daydreams, I'm usually not thinking about how bad the bugs will be when I'm there, or, you know, how much time I have to spend every day getting firewood in order to cook water and coffee and whatever else. So, something along those lines. So, anybody want to start? Want to jump in with sort of a fantasy versus a reality thing? And if I don't get an immediate volunteer, I'm going to start choosing people.
I'll go.
Sure. Do you want to? You're welcome to introduce yourself or remain anonymous. I'll leave that up to you.
How should I introduce myself?
Name, where you're from, favorite dance move.
All right, I'm Nick Laskowski. I'm from Massachusetts, and the sprinkler is my favorite.
That's an excellent choice.
Good job.
I don't know. So, I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and I think, that was the fantasy part of it, is I would get to enjoy the work, and I think I do, so that was probably the biggest thing for me.
Huh. Yeah. The dog just jumped up onto a chair, of course. Wet dog. Inch of rain last night. Soaking wet dog. Now everything's going to stink like wet dog. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to enjoy one's labor, right? And I think that's a really good insight. Anybody else? Fantasy versus reality?
Yeah, I'll go. My name's John Anderson. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. I like the robot. And,
excellent choice. Another excellent choice.
Very basic. It's a good thing. I think the fantasy for me was that I was going to get up here and just be able to totally relax and have plenty of time to think and do. But we do a lot here. So for me, the fantasy was kind of kicked to the side, and now I'm working and trying to stay on top of things. And so that surprised me quite a bit. And I think that the fantasy of 1 inch compared to the 1 inch of rain that we got last night, I don't know. I think that's a fantasy, man. I think it's more like 12 inches. Because my tent.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you're so unconvinced about the inch of rain?
There's a couple of things. The first thing is my tent caved in because of the rain. And,
I did not know that.
Yeah, that part really sucks when you wake up with the caved-in tent. The second thing was when I was standing in the rain making coffee. I had my empty coffee cup sitting there, and it filled up more than an inch while I was making coffee in about 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure we got more than an inch.
Interesting.
But an inch in Louisiana of rain is not a big deal. Maybe it is a big deal in Maine because it was a lot of water.
Yeah.
So.
And it's been pretty dry. This is the first real rain event we've had. I mean, we've had sprinkles and stuff, but geez, we need the rain. Jeez, we need the moisture.
The river's running dry. There's no brookies anywhere.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting, the rain. The rain in Maine is mainly on the plain. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Someone else, please go.
Yeah, hi.
That's insane.
I'm Ashlyn Cornelius. I go by Ash, and one thing I was definitely not expecting was the sheer amount and volume of jokes. It does not end. The stories do not end. I might be considered straight-laced by some standards, and oh my gosh, it does not stop. Just like the rain, in John's estimation. Or, it blows over all the time.
Yeah, we don't really stop at an inch of jokes.
No, we call it the never-ending story.
Oh, yep. I love to hate it. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, your groan speaks volumes.
Thanks. A verbal picture. 1,000 words.
Yeah.
She skipped the dance move. She didn't say it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going on that. Oh, yeah, I'm from North Carolina. I don't know if I said that.
No.
I didn't.
No.
Yeah.
Favorite dance move?
I don't have one.
Make one up.
I love to see.
Make one
people
up. It's all about the
dance.
trivia.
I love to dance. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know the names of stuff. Let's just go with the nameless.
The nameless dance move.
The nameless dance move.
I think that's actually called the lambada. It's the forbidden dance.
I knew you were going there.
It's the dance. You can't name it. It's the forbidden dance from Brazil. Which, do you remember in the 80s there was a movie called Lambada about the forbidden dance?
Let's do capoeira then.
Greatest movie ever made.
Dance.
Greatest movie?
Well, I don't know. I just like movie about forbidden dances. How do you think a dance becomes forbidden?
No.
All right.
Capoeira.
Capoeira is a martial art, not
It
a
is,
dance.
But they said it was a dance.
Did they?
Practice it.
Huh.
So there you go, the forbidden dance.
I have a friend who's he studied capoeira for 10 years or something. He's very adept at it.
I thought that was a rodent in Australia.
No, it's a capybara, and it's in South America.
Wherever it's from.
So you're saying there's a rodent that is adept at martial arts?
Yeah, Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously.
Those turtles have to be like 45 by now. When did that thing first
Middle-aged
come out?
Ninja Turtles?
Yeah.
Well, what's their age lifespan? Would that
Turtles?
still make
Like
them-
1,000 years.
So are they still teenage?
I don't know. This is not...
We're already off the rails.
2.5 minutes in.
Yep,
Any,
this is
Yeah, last one.
I can go.
Yes, please.
I'm Hannah, from Las Vegas, Nevada. My favorite dance move is the hora, which is like a group dance in which everyone holds hands and you kind of do a grapevine in a circle and you go in and out and in and out. It's fun.
Interesting.
And I think for me, before I came here, like I spent a decent amount of time in nature and crafting, and it was a small segment of my life. And so in that small segment of my life, I kind of compartmentalized it as this place where I could find space and stillness and pleasure. And I think in coming here, when that becomes the overarching sort of way of relating to reality. I guess I expected that stillness and that emptiness would translate, but really I'm starting to realize that it doesn't have so much to do, the stillness doesn't have so much to do with the action itself, but your disposition in coming into that action. And so I think I anticipated the recreational and the psychological and the relationship to self aspect to sort of just naturally flow into the rest of my time here, whereas it maintains a practice and something that I need to remain conscious of, even if I'm doing the same activities that do bring that to me in different circumstances, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, mindset is everything.
Yeah.
How you approach things is everything.
Yeah.
The same event, the same actions that take place, depending on your mindset going in, are going to determine everything about that experience and what it means to you. Is that something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a super good and super valid point. So what current events wise for you guys now are all certified by the state of Maine to hold a trapping license to trap fur bearers. We went as a group to a state sponsored trapping class, and you guys planning on running away, living in the woods, living off of beaver and muskrat anytime soon? Is that in the cards?
I'm only going to trap lynx.
Jack lynx.
Exclusively.
Yeah. But I think that was an interesting thing, because it the reality of life in the woods is that, your food has to come from somewhere. Your economic stuff has to come from somewhere. And, the people that I know personally that have lived in the forest or lived off of the land for years at a time, our Cree friends up north, I have a few other friends around Maine, and that's just a big part of it, right? That it's not just, there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of work that goes into living outdoors. It's not just sort of sitting with a journal and writing your thoughts down. There's also, food to harvest and wood to chop and, things of that nature. So I think that was I think it added quite a bit to your guys' early experience of the course. Although, was it the first night of the course we had to go to that initial?
Yes.
Yeah, that was too much. That was
Oh yeah.
It was
the
the
day we
second
got
or
here,
third.
and then the next day.
That's
right. But
Okay.
the first
first
official,
Monday, yeah.
So that was the timing could have been a little better.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It was an interesting experience for me, because I was vegetarian and vegan for like my whole life until about like a year ago, and I was pretty much always the guy who was instructing it kept referencing the bunny huggers, and I very well could have been one of those bunny huggers, and I think it opened my eyes to the relationship that a trapper or anyone that's hunting animals can have to the land, and how that, again, like mindset is everything. It can be an act of reverence and an act of relationship and an act of love, and also just like really beautiful things can come from it. I think I personally was just really taken by holding the furs in my hands and being that close to a creature which spent its whole life sort of just like wandering in the woods in a way that I probably will never understand. And just to have that proximity to a creature like that was really beautiful, and I'd love to carry on with learning more about different ways of relating to animals. Maybe, perhaps not trapping for me, but other ways.
Yeah, I think that trappers get a bad rap that, on the purely practical end of things, if we eliminate apex predators from the landscape, then it's up, then the system will no longer really self-manage well. So then it's up to us to manage the wildlife populations and things. And that's kind of where we're at a lot with modern trapping. But also I think that the trappers get a bad rap for being kind of like a bloodthirsty, don't care about the welfare of the animals. And I think the reality is, someone who's a trapper or a good trapper, animal welfare and populations and is at the forefront of their understanding and their relationship with the natural world.
Yeah, the guy who facilitated the course the first night, we were all kind of joking. He was sort of long-winded, and we were all sort of joking about how boring the first night was. But when he started talking about beaver, which is the animal that he traps exclusively, he sort of came alive. He knew so much about them in a really almost intimate way that I don't think I didn't expect that out of him. But yeah, if you're working with an animal a lot, you definitely get an understanding of it that maybe you won't if you're just observing it.
I am of the belief we do mammal studies here during the semester course, and I always like to have people study the mammal and really know it. And there's different levels to that. The first level, look it up in the field guide, learn some facts about it. Ultimately, we try to find the animal out on the landscape and then observe the animal as it's going about its day. So, like for example, with beavers, I trap beaver. I think it's a great meat to eat. The fur is super useful, but I have a huge respect for beavers. So I've sat and, spend a whole day just watching beavers. And when I was a younger guy, there was a beaver lodge in this pond near our house in New Hampshire when I was living there. And I made a little ground blind so that they couldn't see me, and I could move a little bit and they couldn't see me. And I just sat there on the ground, and I remember watching the beaver come out, and he could smell me. So he's swimming around and he's looking around because he knew I was there. Something was off, but he never saw me. Eventually he slapped his tail, but then you keep watching him, and I was right near their lodge, and you could listen to him, and I could hear the beavers talking to each other inside. And you hear them and you watch them, and they're super sweet to their babies and sweet to their kids. And you watch them, sometimes you watch two beavers swim across a pond, and they'll hold hands when they swim across. So, all these things, all these awesome things about beavers, right? So I think in the modern world, we sort of have this Disney idea of what nature is, where there's no trapping, where there's no harvesting. And, I think in the real world, which is a place that I occasionally like to visit, it's got to have both, right? I think having that intimate knowledge of the animal and really knowing and respecting that animal, right? But at the same time, realizing that, yes, I have to eat, I have to do these things, so maybe I trap the beaver as well. But at the same time, just have a huge reverence for them, right? So, and I don't think that's a viewpoint that gets put out there very much with trapping. So long-winded point is I like to have people, before we teach the traps that we'll make, and before we teach you how to catch it, kill it, cook it, and eat it, I think it's really good for people to really learn something useful about and observe the animal in the wild and learn cool things about it, right? We had a guy one year who had he'd just gotten some new rifle, and I wasn't aware of this. I think I was gone for the day, and he went down and he was going to shoot at one of the beavers swimming in the pond down there, and it was out of season, and it was, it just wasn't it's not a great thing to do, right? And somebody said, well, what are you going to do if you hit it? And he said, I don't know, just leave it in the pond, I guess. And so that it's just a horrible use of wildlife and the resource, and just demonstrating a complete lack of respect. So I always think it's better for people to do that research, observe the animal, so that they develop that respect before, hunting or trapping ever becomes part of the equation. Because if you start off and you put a firearm in somebody's hand and you're going to go shoot something before they have that respect, I think you're missing a big part of that relationship between predator and prey.
I think that's the whole relationship. And what I got out of the trapping class was the fact that when we go out and we deal with the animals, we do show a certain amount of respect, and we want to use the whole animal, and there's a purpose instead of just randomly going and killing something.
Right.
And what shocked me was when we went in and we looked at how many of the animals are killed when we build a parking lot or when we build a shopping center. I mean, the mall in Presque Isle, at one point was probably an impressive mall, but it's dead. There's nothing there. And how many animals did we kill just to have a mall for a couple of years? Mm-hmm. And so if we can go out and hug a bunny, and I learned at the class that would be the Conibear 110 probably. And, but at least we at least we're able to turn around and use that animal for a purpose, which is kind of the circle of life, and just randomly killing something is not in that circle.
No, not at all.
Not remotely.
I think I don't want to get overly touchy-feely here, but I do think there is a long-standing sacred relationship between predator and prey that many of our modern hunting practices violate, Like, there's no, I call them rifle hunters or tackle fishermen, right? People who don't know anything about the animal or the ecology they're in. They got a brand new firearm, and they're going to go use it and shoot at stuff, right? And that's a whole different animal than like knowing the life cycle of the animal that you're after, knowing how they interact, what's their dominant sense, all the stuff that you guys are learning now. What's their dominant sense? How long, how big are the litters? How many litters do they have a year? So all those little bits of trivia and sort of facts about the animal that you guys are learning, right, is just, honoring that relationship, I think. And, again, not to get overly touchy-feely about it, but I do think that there's something there, like that it's not just about having, the biggest gun or whatever. It's about knowing and interacting with the wildlife on a really intimate level. That's the goal.
I was really happy that we started with the trapping class before we got to the mammal studies, because it put it in a context of this is useful almost. Like, I already knew that it's useful to understand more things about animals, but it gave me a framework to work under that I don't know if I would have had without the trapping certification. Yeah. I was grateful we got into that, and I'm really happy that this class is making us choose animals that are in this area that we find tracks of, that we have that relationship with already by just living in the same area. I'm hoping to take it back with me to North Carolina and find out some more things about that. I have my hands in the plants, but I'm not really looking at all the animals around me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, we're it's still pretty gray. It just quit raining, so we're all sort of like that low pressure weather, a little slower than normal. Everybody here is a day and a half or 2 days into carving a canoe paddle with hand tools, so everybody just looks tired, broken, and beaten.
Thanks.
Except the dog, who's asleep again.
That's sort of her whole game. I'd be curious to hear from you guys about, Tim just mentioned we're working on the paddles, but I'd be curious to hear about other projects. Which ones have stuck out to you guys so far, whether that's academic work or, a specific handcraft that we did. Is there anything that's jumped out at people that sort of an aha moment, a light bulb went off?
Well, the paddles for me have been tremendous. And I was talking to my dad last night, and at first I thought if we messed up the paddle, we could go get another board, but now we're 20 hours into this thing. But I was telling him last night, the process seems tedious and it's long and it's, you get lost in it, and which is kind of nice. I enjoy that part of it. But I think if I had to go back and start a paddle now, I could probably be where I'm at right now in about 6 hours.
Yeah.
And so just learning with the wood and dealing with the wood and learning how the tools work. I didn't like it at first, but now I see the value of the way we're doing it because, like I said, I think I could take the 20 hours I've done it and do it in 6 hours and be right where I'm at right now if I screwed it up. But I'm also scared of screwing it up because I know I don't want to paddle down the river with a pole. So.
Yeah, well, philosophy of crafts, right? I think there's huge value in learning how to make stuff using very simple tools and no infrastructure. And then, down the road, if you get in, paddle making becomes your thing, yeah, by all means, get kitted out in a wood shop, bandsaws, big drum sanders, and then you can crank out a paddle in like an hour. But, again, that idea of baselines, that if your baseline is you can make everything that you need with a few simple tools, some of which you'll make yourself, might not be super fast or efficient, but, it's a long life. And that's a pretty good baseline to have. Whereas if you start with the kitted out wood shop and $1,000 bandsaw and big drum sander, then maybe you think you couldn't pull off making a paddle with just a couple of simple hand tools. So I think going the way that we're going, I mean, we've thought about the process a lot. And that doesn't mean that if, you want to make multiple paddles in your life, you're always going to use simple hand tools. But I think the first one, it's always good to be able to make and have made certain crafts and stuff with very simple stuff. Because, you could always go back to that, I think.
I think you develop a relationship with the piece you're making too, with how long it takes and everything. It's just instead of just pounding something out in an hour, it takes time and you put effort into it, and it's just nice
and it's your relationship with that paddle, because we'll go and we're going to paddle a whole bunch of miles with it later. At the end of that, you are using the thing that you made to propel yourself across the landscape, and the experience that you'll have will just be different than if we ran down to the outfitter and got a plastic T-handle paddle or something. That respect for the process and the materials. And you see, if you look back at woods-based cultures or, traditional cultures living close to the land, that everything they had came from the land. So there's that sort of, that kind of reverence you have for your stuff, and that, it might not be pretty, but it's mine sort of approach.
Yeah, I've seen people show up with, paddles that they bought, and they're jamming them against rocks while we're paddling and using them to pry off of stuff, and it's just... I would be willing to bet none of you guys will do that, because you spend so much time making these things that why would you want to use it for something it's not for, and why wouldn't you want to treat it with a little bit of respect?
That's why we started making paddles. It's because I got tired of buying them every year because they get all broke. Everybody's using it like a pole or I don't know what else. So figured the only way these people are going to not want to jam their paddle into a rock is if they spend 3 days making it.
All right, man.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, anybody else?
Yeah. So I really am enjoying this weather watching. It's not something that I ever thought would be so straightforward in a way. It's still a lot of variables to keep in mind, but it's something that makes me feel more in tune with where I'm at and just gives me a prediction for how I should go about the rest of the day or what I am expecting in the day.
Nice.
I'll look at the forecast and be like, yeah, this is a 50-50 chance. But then I look at the sky and I'm like, I feel pretty sure that it's not going to rain in the next few hours, or it's going to rain pretty soon. And it just it grounds me pretty well to where I'm at.
Nice.
Even though I'm looking in the sky, it's pretty grounding.
I'm glad you made that joke, because I was gonna, and then I would have felt bad.
Your jokes are bad and you should feel bad.
I know. I do.
Yeah, being conscious of the weather, I like the word you said, it's grounding. I think that's an interesting way to put it. But yeah, it's kind of always there. You're always aware of it. Whereas if you live in a big city, maybe you don't care. Like if I wake up and I get in a car or get on a train and go in the subway and then work in a big building, everything's climate controlled. It's not part of my reality. But living out here, close to the land, it's part of your everyday reality. And I think that's a neat thing to be aware of. I always you guys have probably heard me tell the story that at the end of the semester, I'll go home and do a big sigh and be like, for the next week, I'm not going to look at the sky once. I don't care what it's going to do. I'm not paying attention, because it's such at the forefront of your awareness and consciousness when you're kind of living out or life on the trail. You're always aware of the weather.
I want it to control my life a bit more, or have that more say in what I'm doing in the day. So I really didn't want to get out of bed this morning when it was raining.
Yeah.
I just wanted to stay in.
Pouring rain. Yeah.
There you go.
Rain on a tent fly or a metal roof or a tarp. The sound of it instantly puts me to sleep.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Till it goes boosh.
Yeah.
And it collapses on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. We've got other stuff to go do today. So thank you for spending this time with us, all of you out there in podcast land. If you found this show useful, share it with somebody. Leave us a review. You know the drill. And we'll hit you back again here real soon. So hope you have a great day. We're definitely gonna. Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. For more information on our professional wilderness guide training programs that are college accredited and GI Bill approved, visit us on the web at jackmtn.com.